As you can see, neighbors have gone to great lengths to make it clear they do not want two men who have served time for violent sex crimes to move into this house right here. Dozens of neighbors gathered in this cul-de-sac to voice their concerns over the Department of State Hospital's proposal to place two sexually violent predators at this home on Horizon Hills Drive. Parents worried their kids could be targets.
Today, just at the meeting, my son's writing, keep us safe with this chalk. It's hard. And have to explain to them what an SVP means, I don't want to do that.
Under California law, a sexually violent predator has been convicted of a violent sex crime at least once and has been diagnosed with a mental disorder, making the person likely to reoffend.
You do not place a diabetic in a candy store. You do not place a sexually violent predator in a family neighborhood when their victims have been kids with child molestation and under 14 years of age. You don't put them in the area where they're most likely to reoffend.
78-year-old Douglas Badger, who has been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder and sexual sadism, has a history of sexual assaults dating back to 1974. He has spent nearly 2 decades in maximum security state hospitals. Merrill Wakefield was convicted of sexual assaults dating back to the 80s and 90s.
We don't think that they're going to get the type of monitoring that's necessary to keep our families safe.
Neighbors blame Liberty Healthcare, which oversees the state's sex offender reentry program, and the homeowner, who they say doesn't live here but will get paid to house the SVPs. Neighbors have gone as far as offering to buy the home to keep the violent sex offenders out of it.
They're being rewarded for their bad behavior. There's other people that would love to live here. Why them?
Neighbors are encouraging each other to send opposition letters to San Diego County Sheriff's Office Safe Task Force. The deadline to submit those comments is Monday. I'm Dana Griffin. Back to you.
There's a fly ball headed towards deep left center field. Back goes DJ Peters at the wall. Nando's left the building again.
This is Oscar Garcia, standing 7 rows from where Fernando Tatis's history-making homer landed, propelling Oscar to a new level of Padres fandom.
This is priceless right here. It's not for sale.
So how did he get the ball? Oscar and his family traveled to Los Angeles to watch Saturday's Padres-Dodgers game. That play made Tatis the first player with back-to-back 2 home run games against Cy Young Award winners. The 22-year-old also homered twice on the 22nd anniversary of his father's same-inning 2 grand slams at Dodger Stadium. The official game highlight didn't show what happened next in the stands. But Oscar's brother caught it all on camera as his nephew Jose went for it. And gaining possession of this prized ball did not come easy.
So I go for it, and I get tackled, and she starts biting at my ear, and I get the ball, hold on to it, stand back up, show it to my tios, and triumph, walk it all the way back to him, getting booed, but I didn't care.
Jose handed the ball to Oscar, who is now back home in Chula Vista, showing off the ball to family who were all Padres fans, including Oscar's dog.
Let's go, Padres, let's go.
Sunday, they gathered to cheer on the team. Oscar has received several offers to buy the ball.
I'm not gonna sell it.
All he wants is a little ink on his new cowhide.
It means a lot to me, and now to the family. It's gonna stay in the family, and I know you hit this home run. It probably means something to you, but if you want to sign it to me, I'll be glad. We'll be happy.
In Chula Vista, Dana Griffin, NBC7.
It really depends on who you ask. After a 13-day pause on the Johnson & Johnson vaccines, some people would still have no problem getting the shot. Others, not so sure.
My whole family recommended me not to get it just because everything was going on. I didn't feel comfortable about it.
19-year-old Ben Taft feeling confident after a dose of the Pfizer vaccine. But others getting vaccinated at the Chula Vista Superstation would have no problem with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
The odds of what happened, unfortunately, to those who receive those side effects are very slim. So I still trust the vaccine as long as everyone else higher up is saying it's safe.
As it was before the pause, J&J doses remain in very limited supply. In fact, right now, the county says there are only about 12,000 doses on hand. most will go to specific groups like homebound seniors, the homeless, people living in the backcountry, and that's because of the one-dose only convenience of the J&J vaccine.
The benefits are so much greater than the risks at this point.
Dr. Christian Ramers, who's treated hundreds of COVID patients, says confidence should be high in the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. To put it in context, he says there's a higher risk of getting hit by lightning or taking an aspirin.
The risk of bleeding, having a bleed in your stomach from taking an aspirin every day, is about 1 in 1,000. So this is many, many, many more times less risk than common things that we do every single day.
That said, Dr. Ramers understands the concerns. He recommends having a one-on-one conversation with your doctor and ultimately get the dose you're most comfortable with.
I'm very satisfied with Moderna, but my mother is still in need of her vaccine shot, and I'm thinking that I'm going to get her the Johnson & Johnson shot because it's just a one shot and then I won't have to worry about bringing her back to get a second shot.
The prevailing opinion here, address the concerns, but in the end, get vaccinated. Artie Ojeda, NBC 7. San Diego Sheriff's Deputy Jess Allensworth was the first law enforcement responder to the horrible synagogue shooting 2 years ago today. But as it turns out, this wasn't the first time he'd been part of an incident involving an active shooter.
Many believe that we're only given what we can handle.
It's clear Deputy Allensworth, a 27-year veteran with the department, has handled more than his share. Not only was he a first responder to the 2019 Poway synagogue shooting, Allensworth was also one of the first responding deputies to the deadly Santana High School shooting 20 years ago last month. Fate has indeed given him a lot to handle.
I take it and I use it as energy to train and educate others.
As it turns out, Deputy Allensworth had an earlier connection with the Chabad synagogue. He had been asked to provide safety training shortly after a deadly synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh in October 2018.
It was either that day or the next day, the Chabad of Poway requested any form of active shooter training.
He offered basic training. The prevailing message in the event of an active shooter: run first, then hide, and if it comes down to it, fight.
You're going to fight for your life. And you're not just fighting for your life, you're fighting for all those who care about you.
Deputy Allensworth credits one man, Oscar Stewart, a retired Army veteran, for doing just that. Stewart confronted the shooter inside the synagogue, chasing the suspect, who then sped off before being arrested.
He later told me that because of that training, as he started to run, he decided he was going to fight.
While Allensworth credits Stewart with saving an untold number of lives, the deputy himself has been honored by the Anti-Defamation League. Take a look at him in this picture. And 20 years earlier, a striking similar photo, sitting with the group of first responding deputies at Santana High School. Anniversaries like today give the longtime deputy a chance to reflect on his personal experiences, but his first thought is always with the victims, and not just for those who passed or were injured.
The victims are the people who were there, saw it, people who are related to those who are injured, are a part of it. It affects them, just as much, if not more.
Artie Ojeda, NBC 7. Here on Penasquitos Drive, just west of Interstate 15, there has been an explosion of development. From above, you can see work being done on a project that will add 300 homes. And beyond that, there are plans to build more than 530 homes on an old golf course.
If developers were in charge, we'd probably have housing in the Grand Canyon.
Longtime Rancho Penasquitos residents say they recognize the city's desperate need for more housing. They say they're not opposed to development, but they'd like to see smart development.
They can't just develop any place and not take into account the safety concerns that really a development like this would create.
The latest project raising serious concerns is a planned development that would add 536 homes and apartments on the old DoubleTree Hotel golf course, which ceased operations in 2015. The project, called the Junipers, would be exclusive to people 55 and older, with 15% of its apartments designated for low-income seniors. But there's a major problem that will get the attention of most San Diegans.
This whole community is a cul-de-sac, and there's only one way in and one way out.
The only exit route for residents here in the event of a fire evacuation is 2-lane Penasquitos Drive. Consider what happened to Joe Pierzina during the 2007 wildfires.
From here to the freeway, it's only about a mile drive for me. It took me and my family over an hour to get out of here. And at that point, none of this new development was in.
The concern is the cumulative effect of all the new development.
There seems to be a very aggressive push for any development at any cost.
Developer Lennar Homes would not provide a statement to NBC7, only saying concerns are addressed in its environmental impact report. But the president of the local community group is leading a push to ask city planners to consider fewer homes and examine other options.
Putting in another way in and out of the neighborhood would certainly be an option that I think would assist in that evacuation concern that we have.
Real issues as the city of San Diego tries to prioritize new housing construction and balance resident concerns. Artie Ojeda, NBC7.